My name is Dave. I'm sitting in my room. I've made 4 phone calls and sent 1 message in the last 2 hours to ruin who knows how many lives. Someone is standing at the door. Hello, honey. Where's Fiona? I called Stuart and he came home early. He'll take her and look after her until I get home. Linda, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. He's a great guy. I know it's tradition to not like your brother-in-law, but your choice is so damn good that I just can't help but love it. I chuckled at my daughter's grim smile. We had a common sense of humor. Have you told Pete yet, Dad? No, your brother is at sea now. I'll text him later. Okay, Dad. I'm here for you, you know. Yes, thank you, honey. We fell into silence for a long time. Why did she do this to you, Dad? I don't know, dear. What? She didn't say anything? I haven't talked to her yet. Are you saying that they are still to her? I saw my daughter's worried eyes darting towards the stairs to the bedroom. I just wanted to wait so she could tell us all why she did it at the same time. Everyone? Yes, I invited a few more guests. They'll be here soon. What are you going to do? No more and no less than you need to survive this. So you already have a plan? Yes. Doesn't it depend on her? No. The facts speak for themselves. The reason doesn't matter. But she could have been blackmailed. Believe me, if you saw what I saw and heard what I heard, you would understand that she was not blackmailed. Linda looked into my eyes for a moment. I thought you took it well, but now I see that it's not so. No. I turned away. No daughter should have to see her father cry. What would you like me to do? You do what your conscience tells you. I will not think better or worse of you, no matter what you decide. Thank you, Dad. Do you have any idea why she did this? I have no idea, honey. Until this morning, I thought we had a good marriage. What happened this morning? Well, your mother was always bad at lying and keeping secrets. It's just not in her character. After 27 years of marriage, I know her habits like my own. She takes a shower every morning. Every Tuesday and Friday, she washes her hair. She stays there for about 30 minutes. This morning, she spent almost an hour and a half there. When I walked in there to tell her she was going to be late for work, I saw what kind of underwear she was wearing and what she was going to wear. These were not her usual office clothes. I asked her what her plans were for the day, and she said nothing fancy, just work. She was lying. Every time she thought she was late for work, she began to worry. This morning, she was as cold as a cucumber. Then I realized that she was not going to go to work. And what did you do? I canceled work and parked a little further down the street. I was going to follow her when she left, but she didn't go anywhere. I stayed there until the guy she works with at the real estate agency showed up around 11:30. I snuck inside and made sure it was what I expected, and then began to think about what I should do. After that, I made a few phone calls, and here we are. Were there any leads, Dad? I mean, before today? I thought you were fine. No, honey, nothing. As far as I knew, I loved her, and she loved me. We planned to work a few more years and then retire and live happily ever after. Dad, I have to ask you this. Have you ever... Don't even say it, Linda. No, I never betrayed your mother. I have never shown such disrespect to a woman in my life. Even when our sex life pretty much died a couple of years ago, I just put it aside. What? You haven't had sex for 2 years? No. Your mother was never overtly sexual. She thought she just didn't like it very much. Sure, she seemed to enjoy it when we started, but that was in the beginning. When she went through menopause 2 years ago, everything just dried up completely. So when you found her today, it must have hit hard. I let my steely gaze answer for me. At that moment, there was another quiet knock on the door. I opened it and saw my father-in-law standing there. Come in, Paul. Thank you, Dave. Where is she? Upstairs in our bedroom. Okay. I have to see for myself. I understand. Just don't bother her, please. The old man went up the stairs and came down a minute later, immediately looking even older. He sank heavily into a chair. I poured him some whiskey and he drank it in one gulp. I can't believe she could do this to you. She knows how devastated you were when your fiancé cheated on you. In the end, she helped pick up your pieces. Not only that, she knows how devastated I was when I caught her mother when she ran off with it. This asshole leaving me and the children. Sorry, but I need to get out of here. Perhaps a woman should not see her grandfather cry. I walked him to the door. Linda looked like she was going to follow us, but I waved her off. I wanted the old man to retain some of his pride. He stood on the porch and grabbed me by the shoulders to support me. Do what you have to do, son, but nothing physical. I couldn't stand to watch it. Don't worry, Dad. I won't touch the hair on your daughter's head. But as for the other shit, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do. A guy has to do what he has to do. He looked at me for a long time, then nodded. He shuffled to his car and slowly drove away. Broken man. I called his son, my wife's brother, and, without going into details, suggested that he go to his father to support him. I was just hanging up when I heard the toilet flush upstairs. Bedtime must be over. I joined Linda and we sat in silence for a few minutes. Soon we heard the creaking of the bed and sounds of passion. See, Linda, do you think this looks like blackmail? No, Dad. How can you sit here? Why don't you go and kick that motherfucker's ass? Well, it's not easy, honey, but I have the ability to turn off my emotional side. How to distance yourself from all feelings. So why torture yourself? Why not go up there and stop it? Throw out your unfaithful wife? We have another visitor. As if on cue, there was another knock on the door. I opened it to a sensible lady several years younger than me. Surprisingly, there was a boy and a girl with her. They looked like teenagers. Is this Mr. Brown? Yes, please, call me Dave. I'm Jenny Smith, and these are my children, Robert and Sarah. I picked them up from school. If what you say is true, I wanted them here, at least to understand that it was their father who destroyed our family. I shook Robert's hand. It turned out to be surprisingly hard. I introduced them all to Linda. You said you had proof, Dave. In response, I walked over to my pants, which were lying on the armrest of the sofa, and pulled out my wallet. I handed it to Jenny. She opened it and looked at the driver's license. A tear rolled out of her eyes. She probably hoped that what I said on the phone was a mistake. Her face suddenly hardened. Well, Dave, where are they? In response, I simply put my finger to my lips in the international symbol of silence. We sat listening to the grunts and groans. Son of a bitch, have you encountered them yet? No, I wanted us to act as one team. I just made a video for us that I'm excited to share. I also installed a voice recorder and put it under the bed. We can go right now if you want. I suggest the children wait until we meet. Worthy performers. Yes, you are right. Wait a minute. I have a locksmith to change the locks on my house. I was just waiting to see if you were right. I'm actually not surprised it's not the first time. He's such a smooth-talking little Damn. Linda and I waited patiently while she called the locksmith, then her lawyer, and gave them both permission. We distracted her children from the noise by chatting about trifles. Then Jenny squared her shoulders. Okay, let's go. Jenny, Linda, and I walked up the stairs while the kids below waited for our signal. After Jenny sneaked a peek through the doorway, I motioned for them to stay away as I entered the room. I stood at the foot of the bed and watched with disgust what was happening. What I saw before was real missionary work. Now he was taking her doggy style. I watched impassively. She showed her gratitude with continuous moans. She refused to engage me in this position shortly after the wedding. She said it was humiliating. Suddenly she screamed, reaching its peak, and collapsed on the bed. She rolled over onto her back and her eyes met mine. Her face fell, and she screamed. The lover followed her gaze and also saw me. He started to rise, looking ridiculous. Rising to his feet, he stopped and looked me in the face. I saw that in the near future he had a very bad feeling about his physical safety. That's it, asshole. I'm bigger and uglier than you, and please believe me, I'm mad as hell. Why don't you just go back to bed and cover for yourself and my ex-wife? He was obedient. A few seconds later, they were lying side by side under the blanket. I noticed Tracy's expression went from shock to challenge. I let her speak first. Dave, I want a divorce. I fell in love with Joe. This guy. I'm sorry you had to find out about it like this. We were going to tell you about this tomorrow. Everything is fine, dear. By the way, I know his name is John Smith, don't I? I could see that it shocked them. Not the smartest move, leaving your wallet in your pants pocket down there, moron. Tracy, just out of curiosity, why did you end our marriage like that? You should have known that if I caught you cheating, I would be devastated. Finally, I saw the shame on her face. I'm really sorry, Dave. We couldn't help but fall in love with each other. I accept it, darling. But you might want to avoid putting the cart before the horse. You might as well not have sex with that jerk before you announce you want a divorce, right? I'm really sorry, Dave. I just wanted to make sure John and I were compatible. We didn't want you to see us. If it helps, this was the first time. What? Test drive a new model? Sample by size? Don't be rude, Dave. I don't want our marriage to end in a fight. Can't we part as friends? It almost broke through my mental defenses. I assume that under the pressure of this situation, she seems to be quoting tomorrow's pre-rehearsed speech. You've got to be fucking kidding me. You are lying in my bed, and next to you is another guy with whom you cheated on me, and you want to part as friends. I don't think so. We looked at each other until Tracy looked down. I decided it was time to start counting points. Your father asked me to tell you how disappointed he is. He hoped you wouldn't become a traitor like your mother. Tracy's face turned white as a sheet. Yes, I called him. It's strange that you haven't seen him. He was standing here just half an hour ago. Why? Because I wanted you to start feeling the same pain I've been feeling ever since that idiot showed up. I don't know what the kids will think about this. Oh God, Dave, please don't tell the kids, please. Sorry, honey, it's too late. Linda took this moment to appear in the doorway. Tracy looked, squealed, and hid her face under the sheet. Don't worry, Mom, it doesn't work for ostriches and it won't work for you. Tracy just moaned under the sheet. Her bed partner continued to look very awkward. When Dad called me, I doubted it. I just couldn't believe you would do this to him. Now I understand why he called me. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I might have urged him to forgive you. But seeing you like this, I know that will never happen. Silence, save for deep, agonizing sobs, was the only answer. Well, Mom, if you have nothing else to say, I'll say everything. We don't need you babysitting your granddaughter this weekend. In fact, if cutting yourself off from seeing her protects her from your toxic influence, then you can kiss her goodbye once. From under the sheet came a plaintive, "No." Now Linda was crying herself. You should have seen the expression on poor old grandfather's face. You devastated him. She turned to run, but I grabbed her and hugged her. She broke free and ran downstairs. Soon we all heard the front door slam. A few more minutes passed before Tracy reappeared, her eyes red. Why did you do that, Dave? Because you haven't experienced half the pain that I feel, Tracy. You haven't yet felt that your heart was ripped out and trampled on. But you will get it, I assure you. Now I'm tired of this charade. Just get out of my house, both of you. A defiant expression appeared on Tracy's face again. If anyone leaves this house, it will be you. I used the power of attorney you gave me, in case anything happened to you, to transfer the documents into my name only. I think the intensity of her own voice even surprised Tracy. She, of course, saw from my face that by revealing yet another betrayal of hers, she had angered me even more. She also understood that, morally, she was simply digging her own grave deeper and deeper. I quickly came to my senses. Strange thing with shocking news. They stop hurting a lot when they reach a certain point. I reached this point 2 hours ago. How are you going to pay the mortgage, Tracy? Do you think we haven't figured it out, Dave? With my salary and commission, plus John, we can easily cope. What are you talking about, Tracy? Your boss, Mr. Johnson, asked me to tell you both that you have been fired. He would have told you himself, but apparently both phones are switched off. The good Christian soul that he is, he vaguely imagined two married idiots like you cheating during work hours. You didn't tell him, Dave. Tell me it's not. Yeah, and sent him some beautiful photographs. Tracy's bedmate finally found his voice. "How do you know that I'm married? Do you remember your driver's license? Phone book, phone. Easy. Wife Jenny, about 5'6", pretty, red-haired. The children, Robert and Sarah, seem like good children. Tell me, asshole, were you planning on fucking them the way that bitch was planning on fucking me? Please, Mr. Brown, don't tell my wife." "Why not? Haven't you finished emptying all your bank accounts in preparation for sailing into the sunset with my wife? She will get a house. Just give me a chance to tell her softly, please. She doesn't deserve this. I still love her in my own way. She doesn't deserve to know about this." "What? He doesn't deserve it?" "Yes, you are right. Unfortunately, it's already too late. I didn't have to turn around to know exactly when Jenny and her children walked through the door." His face spoke for itself. The facial expression was priceless. "Yes, it's too late, my dear husband. I am forever grateful to Mr. Brown for bringing this to my attention. Just so you know, the video he gives me should be enough to activate the post-nuptial agreement we made last time I forgave you." Tracy turned her head to look at her bed partner. In my detached state, I idly wondered why. Was it the fact that he was a serial cheater? Or was it news that their financial plans were now disrupted? "The locks on my house have been changed a long time ago. If you want to come by in the morning to pick up your things, they will be in the dumpster I'm going to hire this afternoon." Throughout this entire tirade, unfortunate John looked at his feet in horror. I later found out that he was the one who seduced Tracy, but the test drive was her idea. In fact, his plan was to tell his wife and family the next day. He looked sadly at his wife, then glanced at the children, but for a long time he could not look into their eyes. Jenny lost control of herself, but briefly came to her senses. "Well, children, if you've ever wondered what a fallen woman looks like, then take a good look." Tracy shrank under their gaze. Jenny grabbed the children and ran out. I walked over to the bed and growled at the cowering couple. "Just get out of my house. You have no idea how furious I am right now. I'll be back in 2 hours or so. I want you both to leave when I get back." One look at my face convinced them of the seriousness of my intentions. I ran after Jenny and stopped them before they left. We agreed to meet in a cafe, which we did. We consoled each other and tried to guide the children through the upcoming process. Robert turned out to be mature beyond his years and helped calm his sobbing sister. I really wish her father was here to see his daughter's pain. I gave Jenny my business card and offered to help her in any way I could. It seems we parted as friends. The next week was very difficult. Yes, I can turn off my emotions in a critical situation. However, this does not stop the pain. It only postpones it. Of course, I was busy with work and lawyers. They were very interested in my testimony, especially the voice recorder that I took out from under the bed. He recorded some pretty decent conversations in which the two lovers detailed their plans to seize most of the two families' marital property. Tracy justified this as her right because of my ability to earn money. Of course, the position in divorces was equal, but my lawyer informed me that judges had the ability to get away with this, and evidence of premeditated fraud could often sway them. Linda also insisted on listening to the recordings. We were both stunned by her mother's planned vindictiveness. Linda called her mother to get an explanation, but received nothing to convince her that this was not just pure evil. I put on a brave face for Linda and a brave voice for my son when he called, but it wasn't easy. The next weekend after the show, Jenny called me. She was very happy to mow her own lawns, but had no idea how a mower worked. After teaching a few lessons on Sunday and doing other minor maintenance work, I was invited to stay for dinner. We chatted when the kids went to bed. Then things got serious. "How are you, Jenny?" "About as you'd expect, Dave. Thanks for asking. I think I've been mentally preparing for this for years. Deep down, I knew it would happen again. My lawyers found out what he planned to do with our finances and blocked it all. I couldn't believe that this little idiot was going to leave us practically penniless. Ass. My lawyers tell me that I will get the house, my alimony, and child support, plus 90% of the assets, thanks to the evidence and the postnuptial agreement. Glad to be of service, Jen. My lawyer said something similar, but only about 50–70% of assets. He came 2 days ago, begging. I think his lawyers told him the same thing as mine, and the thought of him being raped terrifies him. I told him to fuck off. My only concern is the impact on children. Sarah is at an age where she can develop normally without her father, but I'm worried about Rob. I know Jen. At his age, a boy needs a good, strong role model. I thought about it. Can I volunteer for this job? I would be honored to come into his life and help in any way I can. Jenny was silent for a long time. I saw the conflict on her face. I know your ego must be a little fragile at the moment, Dave, so I'm not quite sure how... Don't worry about it, Jen. Rob's support is all I can offer at this time. I saw relief appear on her face. We discussed the details for some time. What about you, Dave? Are you okay? I don't know, Jen. I'm still completely confused. I don't know what I did that made her hate me so much. Finding her, with your John, I simply castrated myself. It makes me question my own masculinity. Was I so inadequate that I just don't know? Ruining her relationships with her children, her father, possibly our mutual friends, coupled with her being fired, just doesn't seem like enough. I feel like I'm only half a man. Believe me, I know exactly how you feel, Dave. Jenny stared at me, obviously reasoning with herself. Finally, she continued. You know what you need to do to get your manhood back, don't you, Dave? Jenny leaned towards me with a steely gaze. Yes, Jen. Fine. How comfortable are you with me, Jen? Now there was steel in her voice, too. Hell truly hath no fury like a woman scorned. As much as to rid you of your demons, Dave, you're too good a guy to let some lingering pain ruin your whole life. Let it all out, Dave. Okay, I'll need an alibi. You will have it, believe me. When she told me what she had in mind for an alibi, we both laughed for a long time. God, how I needed this. We resumed our conversation. This conversation is only half over. What about you, Jen? Do you feel like you need to get back at Tracy? Good God, no. I know what a smooth-talking little jerk he can be. Your poor wife didn't stand a chance. I almost feel sorry for her. We parted as friends, and she promised to talk to Rob about whether he would be interested in helping restore my old car. This set the plan for the next 6 weeks. After school, he came to me, and we messed around. I took every opportunity to talk to him, and we became friends. After I took Jenny home, everything changed. I used my free time to spy on the happy couple. With their bank accounts frozen, John and Tracy were unable to get their own home. Tracy was staying with one of her few remaining friends. The asshole did the same with one of his own. They spent most of the evenings together, and late in the evening they went in different directions. Eventually, I established a pattern clear enough to call Jenny on Thursday night and announce that the next night was the night. She arranged for the children to go to her parents for the night. I drove to her house and parked in the driveway. Then, after kissing her on the lips, I wheeled John's old motorcycle out the back gate and started it a block from her house. Once at his friend's, I looked around, then quietly fired an air pistol at a street lamp. After that, all that was left was to wait in the bushes on the side of the driveway. He surprised me by breaking my routine. He arrived in 40 minutes by taxi, not by car. The reason became clear when I saw his unsteady steps walking down the driveway. He was drunk, so hitting on the sly was never in my nature. My sense of honor demanded a fair fight. I stood in front of him. "Hello, John." He froze. Then, in the dim light, I saw recognition flash in his eyes. He definitely didn't react the way I expected. Well, it's not called Dutch courage for nothing. Well, this is the guy who couldn't keep his woman in line. A very bad move on his part. Instantly, my carefully thought-out plan for a limited attack went out the window. The offended animal attacked. A right hand to the jaw made him fall to all fours. Then my memory became a little foggy. According to later reports, I hit him several times in the ribs, trampled his kidneys and shins, and then delivered half a dozen well-aimed blows between the legs. Luckily, my red haze cleared, allowing me to complete the last part of my plan. I picked up his unconscious body and threw it into the middle of the road. Maybe the police will think he's just another unfortunate hit-and-run victim. Maybe not. Jenny was looking forward to my return and asked me how it went. She didn't seem upset that I broke my plan in anger. Upset people don't usually smile like Cheshire cats. Once she had all the dirty details, I excused myself to go shower and get rid of any potential evidence. I checked for bruises on my knuckles. Everything is fine. My eyes were closed as I felt a cool breeze and then warm skin. A pair of arms grabbed me from behind. I thought you didn't want this. To hell with what I want. Do you need it? You took the man, now you need to take his woman. I turned around and we kissed. God, how I needed this. We finally broke away from each other. Besides, when the police come to check the alibi, I want to be as convincing as possible. Now finish and go to the bedroom. Who am I to refuse a lady's request? Still wet, I threw it on the bed. Usually, as a lover, I take pride in my attention to a woman. Today, there was none of this. I took it as long and as hard as I could. As far as I can tell, she liked it too. I awoke in the pre-dawn light when I felt her slip back into bed. She pressed herself close to me. I'm so sorry, Jen. Last night I was very tired. I hope you weren't too disappointed. If it was you in second gear, God help me when I get your third. I did everything to bring her to her peak, and then gently made love to her several more times. After that, we both fell asleep again. I woke up when breakfast and coffee arrived. Hey, Dave, some idiot broke the back window of your car last night. I've already called the police. Of course, the police came and my number was entered into their system. This was soon followed by a report of a possible attack the previous night. It was very convenient that my alibi and I were together in a house that smelled of sex. A nosy neighbor confirmed our story that my car was parked there at the time of the attack, as it had been several times a week recently. I was never a serious suspect. I saw Tracy again about a week after her lover's bad night. She called and said she would come pick up the rest of the things. When I explained that everything was donated to charity, she said she still wanted to talk. As her car pulled up, I looked out the window and saw Tracy standing next to her car, talking on the phone. I opened the door in my robe when she finally knocked. She frowned at my choice of clothing, but my face gave nothing away as I invited her inside. I took my phone and purse, took them to the spare room, and closed the door. She was smart enough to realize that I suspected she might try to record this conversation. We sat on either side of the kitchen table. Dave, you should know that I agreed with my friend that if I don't call within 60 minutes, she will send the police here. I nodded in response to her wise precaution, but remained silent. There was only one thing I needed to tell her, and it could wait. Dave, can I just say how sorry I am that our marriage ended? Save your breath, Tracy. I have absolutely no interest in sitting here and listening to you try to ease your conscience by justifying why you tried to destroy me. Okay, Dave. It was you who beat John, wasn't it? Yes. This took her by surprise. She clearly expected me to deny it. What? What's so hard to understand, Tracy? You asked me if I beat up the asshole, and I said yes. It was me. But why? He never did anything to you. Listen, Tracy, extramarital sex couldn't ruin your brain that quickly. When I saw you cheating on me with him, it completely emasculated me, destroyed my masculine confidence. This made me doubt my ability to satisfy a woman. It took away my pride. She was shocked. I think she never considered this aspect. That's what it means to change. After a while, I realized that I had two options. I could become a sad, lonely old man, like your father. A sexless, empty carcass. Or I can fight my way out of the corner you and your lover have driven me into. Are you really surprised that I chose the male version? The only option that will allow me to remain a man. Is it so? Yes, I destroyed your boyfriend, and if I feel it's necessary so that I can hold my head high, then I will do it again and again. You forced me into this, Tracy. Only one can survive. To stop you and him from destroying me, I must destroy both of you. These words were spoken with such calm, chilling confidence that they left no room for doubt. Boo. But John and I just fell in love, Dave. There was nothing we could do. You remember being in love, right? Yes, Tracy, I remember what happened 8 weeks ago. As I said that day, it may not have been your choice to fall in love, but it was your choice what to do and how to do it. If you just came to me and said, Dave, I'm in love with someone else, I want a divorce, then I'd be sad, but I'd be happy to give you your freedom or fight to get your love back. Whatever I chose at the time. By declaring your intentions the way you did, viciously and cruelly, you declared war on me, betrayed everything I stand for and everything I thought you stood for. What now, Dave? Can you leave John and me alone now that you've had your revenge? Yes, I think I can, if only because I can't think of anything else that could be destroyed. Thank you, Dave. Don't worry, Tracy. It's not me you should worry about. Huh? I took revenge on Johnny Boy. His wife hasn't started on you yet. If I were you, I'd keep an eye on her. I can say that she is a very angry lady. At that moment, a woman's voice came from the bedroom. Are you going back to bed, Dave? You promised me 6 amazing peaks a day, and you haven't delivered yet. Who is this? Jenny. She ran away screaming. I walked up the stairs to a fully dressed Jenny. She held me until the shaking stopped. As for Tracy, she flew somewhere far away. I never tried to find her or contact her again. Like I said, my name is Dave, and I feel great. I read somewhere that some people who take revenge on those who have wronged them find it an empty experience. Pig ass! This is the most effective cure for depression that I have ever heard of. It's time to stop dwelling on the past. A new life awaits me. Jen and I never became a couple. We used each other to ease our frustrations quite regularly, but there wasn't the necessary spark to move on to the next stage. But we were good friends and cared about each other. Under our joint leadership, Rob and Sarah made it work. I retreated when potential boyfriends were around her and stayed away from her bed until the relationship ended. 1 or 2 of them were a little scared of me, since I told them that if they hurt her in any way, they would have to answer to me. Before the latter proposed to her, he even asked my permission. He was a great guy, and I happily blessed their union. The wedding was very emotional. Her father left, and she asked me to walk her down the aisle. At the wedding, she introduced me to her old friend. With my Jenny and self-therapy, I have become stable enough to have a normal relationship and am now thinking about asking Jenny to marry me. Well, why not? If it weren't for the toll I exacted on the 2 crooks, would I have recovered enough to lead a normal life? Definitely not. My name is Tracy, and my life has been hell over the past 2 years. I think I can justify what I did then. However, it's much harder to justify what I did last week. Looking back, my life with Dave was good. However, it became stale. The only thing I have left is my first granddaughter. So when John started showing interest in me as a woman, I felt like a teenager again. He was attentive and caring, and what can I say? He swept me off my feet. Deep down, I knew that something was wrong with us, but it was damn nice. Our relationship followed the usual pattern of talking, dating, kissing. I don't remember guilt ever being a problem. By the time we crossed the line and kissed, I knew I loved him, and he loved me. We planned to leave our spouses and get married. My friend Carol, who went through a difficult divorce, explained that her ex took over all the assets from the beginning, and she had a very hard time even hearing a lawyer. That's why John and I calmly took control of everything. I didn't know how his wife would react, but I was pretty sure my Dave wouldn't be happy. We talked often about cheating, and I knew I was crossing the line even before John and I announced our decision. I fully intended to give Dave everything the court would require after the divorce. I just wanted to be in the driver's seat and protect myself from any retaliation. Carol also asked if I slept with John. I've never really enjoyed making love, but a girl has to think she's still woman enough to be sexually attractive. I knew my husband still found me like this. He quite often demanded that I hug him. If I had the same spark for Dave that I had for John, this whole mess could have been avoided. One way or another, Carol planted doubts in my head. What if John wasn't very wealthy as a man? When I sometimes needed sex, I wanted it to be good, right? At my stage in life, sex was more of an emotional thing than a physical thing. I didn't expect John to be as good as Dave. Dave was attentive, gentle, and filled me with pleasure. This is what gave birth to my latest catastrophic betrayal of my marriage. So my first meeting with John was a double exercise. One to test it out, and the other as a final bridging exercise to steel ourselves for the emotionally challenging tasks we have planned for the next few days. To be honest, I wanted to get John's attention so that he wouldn't give up on our plans. Even then, I suspected that he was a rather weak person. Did I ignore the possibility that I would get caught and Dave would freak out? Have I thought about how this will affect my father and children? The simple answer is no. I never expected to get caught. And if I did, I never expected Dave's nuclear response. As for the rest, I just didn't think about it. I have never compared myself to my mother. I was so young when she left us that she just wasn't part of the equation. After everything it cost me, I would like to say that sex with John was mind-blowing. But that was not the case. I found myself pretending to be happy, just like I did with Dave. I still have no idea how Dave found out about my one and only affair. It's just not important to me. I was devastated when I saw the pain in his eyes when he entered the room. Later, I tried to justify it to myself, but, of course, I couldn't. He never did anything bad enough to warrant it. My guilt manifested itself as defiance for a very short time, but it did not last long. The thought of my father witnessing my wrongdoing and my daughter's words just killed me. John's daughter's gaze was almost as terrible. I had no idea that my husband was capable of such cruelty. When I got the call from the hospital about John's admission, I instinctively knew it was Dave's doing. Doctors believed John's broken jaw, concussion, bruised kidney, 3 broken ribs, cracked tibia, and shattered groin were consistent with an accident. I thought differently. That's why I called the police and gave them Dave's name and license plate number. But when I called back 2 days later, they said Dave was above suspicion. That's why I didn't leave John's side the entire week he was in the hospital. I knew he needed my protection. Just 2 months ago, if you had asked me if my Dave was capable of doing this, I would have answered, no way. Within 15 minutes, in my old bedroom, I caught a glimpse of a new one, Dave the monster. The monster I knew I had created. A monster more than capable of limitless cruelty. Yeah, I just knew it was Dave. That's why, just before John was discharged, I called Dave and agreed to meet at our old house. This shit had to stop. Hasn't he taken revenge yet? John and I were both destroyed. We have to accept it. I was sad to walk to my front door. Not as sad as I expected from the upcoming conversation. How did I go from loving a man to thinking of him as an enemy in such a short time? Before I rang the doorbell, I called Carol and told her to call the police if she didn't hear from me in an hour. Dave opened the door in a robe. Unusual. There was no expression on his face when he invited me in. When he asked me to hand over my phone and purse, I scolded myself for not thinking to take the recorder with me. Then I asked myself why. He never admits to the attack. I quickly glanced at the stranger I had known for over 27 years. I felt remorse for the way our marriage ended. By explaining how I fell, I hoped to ease his pain and maybe get him to back off a little. He cut me off as soon as I started. He said he didn't care why. His tone was harsh and his expression blank. Who is this guy? I didn't recognize either the face or the voice. I was stunned when he blithely admitted that he had beaten John. When I heard his motivation, I understood why he did it. Let's just say it didn't ease my conscience at all. I honestly didn't understand why Dave hated John so much. He, of course, very quickly brought this idea to my mind. I suddenly realized how self-centered I had become. It blinded me and allowed me to rationalize the completely unacceptable. I suddenly realized not only what we were being punished for, but also that, judging by the expression on Dave's face, this was not all. My question whether he remembered what love was part of my prepared speech. His response was like a knife stabbing me in the stomach. How else can a decent person feel? I knew I had to run. I didn't think John's wife was a physical threat until I heard what Dave said. With a flash of insight, I suddenly seemed to be in her place. What would I do if she did to me what I did to her? A chill ran down my spine. When I discovered she was upstairs, I ran. I picked John up from the hospital, and we both ran. Both divorces were finalized. The documents were delivered to our mailbox, located 2 cities from my new home. The stress of living anonymously, without friends, and constantly looking over your shoulder was enormous. Eventually, we had some money. The wait was hard. 6 months later, John and I got married. Looking back, we were 2 castaways thrown together, and it was a mistake. I also think one of the motivations was that by getting married, we could retrospectively justify the pain we had caused to many, especially ourselves. My latest fall started harmlessly enough. After suffering injuries, he was completely incapable of erection. We could never afford the testosterone treatment needed to alleviate this problem. This caused him to be moody, insecure, and jealous. Let's face it, a marriage that is rooted in infidelity is an uphill battle from the start. Because of his grumpiness, I also became very unfriendly. One of my friends recommended HRT therapy to me, and in this way she cured her similar condition. I balked at the likely cost, but she explained that since every second woman over 45 was treated, it was much cheaper than testosterone therapy. Another visit to the doctor, and, as if by magic, my life was back to happy normalcy. My doctor warned me that one of the side effects of the estrogen pills was the revival of my libido. He said it with a grin, as if it was a good thing. However, when this happens to a wife whose husband is incapable of anything, it is very destructive. I felt more horny than I ever had after the first 5 years of my marriage to Davy. When the guy at my new job started showing interest in me, I couldn't help but respond. He was much younger than me, which was very flattering. It was extremely difficult to hide our dates. The insanely jealous John was much harder to fool than Dave. The first time we kissed, it was like an electric shock, not from excitement, but from a strong sense of déjà vu. I refused to go through that again. I refused to change. I thought long and hard, but in the end, I found a solution. It wasn't ideal, but John had to respect my reasons, didn't he? So I sat John down on Thursday night last week and told him as gently as I could that I wouldn't be home on Friday night. I need to meet my lover. I'll be discreet. It's just sex, and I'll never rub his nose in it. I took his silence on Thursday night and Friday morning as a reluctant agreement. After treating me to dinner and disappointingly short sex, my new lover fell asleep. Confused, I went home to the trailer where John and I lived. He wasn't there. The howl of sirens at dawn alerted me to the fact that he was hanging and swinging from a tree. I did it again. Destroyed a person. I braced myself for the payback I knew he was orchestrating. I was surprised to find that it consisted only of a suicide note and a letter to his lawyer. So, the suicide note was emailed to all of our remaining friends, who immediately abandoned me. The letter to his lawyer was to change the beneficiaries of his insurance policy and his will from me to his children. When will I learn? Never touch a man's pride. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.